This week, the app formerly known as Twitter announced a major change to the block function. And that change is it's gone. Like most platforms, Twitter's block function previously allowed you to restrict other accounts from seeing your posts, how a block typically works. But following the change, blocking a user will only restrict their ability to engage with your posts, meaning accounts that you block will still be able to see your tweets, just not reply to them or repost them or QT.
They can stalk away.
They can stalk away.
And they can
screenshot
DM
away.
You.
Yeah. And they could, that's a screenshot, yeah.
We got some more friends.
Following the change, Twitter's owner and biggest dipshit, Elon Musk, he tweeted, "High time this happened." So I know we've had too many Twitter Death Watch conversations here, but I thought this is a big enough change worth talking about. What was your initial reaction when you heard this news?
Boy, it's an exciting step towards me and Glenn Greenwald finally reconciling. It's going to be, look at each other's tweets.
You as you blocked each other?
We blocked each other like over a decade ago, but occasionally he still pulls up my page and finds things to yell at.
Wow, that's commitment.
Listen, you got to have a nemesis in this life. So I was actually surprised by how big of a deal this became, to be honest. I kind of saw this, and I think this was my bias as someone who has like a medium large following on the platform. Is I kind of always thought like, well, if someone wants to yell at me on Twitter, they're going to find a way. So like blocking, not blocking doesn't make any difference, but the response has been huge. People are really outraged about it. I think it's something about coming on a year, 2 years of headlines about how Elon Musk wants to turn this into the neo-Nazi and harassment and cyber stalking website that is just like, every time
he's making some good headway.
Exactly. Right. And I think that's like every time there's another headline like this, it's just a reminder that it's like, yeah, he wants you to have a bad time on the website.
Yeah. I find it very weird, the whole thing, because on one hand, you just mentioned this, like people are like, oh, well, people can see the tweets, but you can't harass people because you can't engage with the person. Well, it's like, well, you can engage with the person. What you can do is screenshot the tweet, then post it, and then tell everyone like, oh, go after this person, right? Or so like it is going to encourage harassment. On the other side, X has basically told people now, well, you can protect your tweets. You can have your tweets locked. And if you do that, then only your followers can see it, and then people
they don't really want you to take your account private. They want to make it very difficult, very cumbersome. And this is also like, I think part of our bias as two men on this podcast is like any woman who has any sort of following online like really needs the block function because you get so many stalkers and harassers, and the block function it's a speed bump, but it's something, and you kind of need every protection you can get. And the fact that they are deliberately dismantling one of the very few existing protections for user safety they have on Twitter is just another big neon flashing sign that's like, this platform is for a very certain subset of users, men who have restraining orders against them. This is your website. This is your place to go.
I was going to say, how much of the change do you think is just Elon Musk wanting to see the posts of the many, many, many accounts that blocked him?
I actually was wondering if maybe Elon just got so many blocks on his account after they retooled the algorithm to fucking force his Twitter feed into everybody else's feeds. Because like, you blocked him, I blocked him, just because we were seeing too many of his posts. I wonder if he saw those block numbers. Oh, you muted. Okay.
This is an interesting thing to talk about, is block versus mute. I tend to mute people because sometimes when you block someone, you give them the satisfaction of knowing that they've been blocked.
Yes.
And then some of these fucking people,
they love to screenshot that they got blocked and be like, got him.
Look who couldn't take it. Jon Favreau couldn't take my criticism, so he blocked me. Now everyone retweet
I know that prove that I'm right. Yeah. Do you know what experience I've been starting to have more in the last couple of years? So they've rolled out these tools now that let you auto block huge numbers of users. And it's actually really
handy. Is that
handy.
what Mark Andreessen has done?
Yes.
Mark Andreessen is apparently the VC guy. He blocked everyone. One day I don't think I've ever interacted with him, and I was like, oh, I can't read his tweets. He blocked me.
He and a lot of tech venture capitalist people at one point blocked every reporter in the media, so they like built some tool to do that, which is cool. Great. But knock
yourself out.
In theory, it's a useful tool. It's like, I want to block all the neo-Nazis. I want to block all the spam bots, but sometimes accounts get pulled into that. So I had this experience where I will meet someone like at a party and we'll be chatting. We'll be like, oh, let's follow each other on social media. And they'll pull it up and be like, wait, do you fucking block me on Twitter? What the hell?
Who were you blocking?
No, they were blocking
they were
me.
blocking you. Oh, because you're a journalist.
Yes, that's right. Because they don't like the truth. They can't handle it.
I also find the rationale from X and from Elon sort of confusing too, which is they're like, well, if you're blocked by someone, then they can be saying all kinds of nefarious things about you and you can't know.
Great. I don't want to fucking know.
Right.
I don't. That's the whole thing. It's bad if you know everything anyone has ever said about you. Your brain can't handle that. The idea of a website where you go and log on and you read every fucking insult or shitty thing that someone has said, you're not ready for that emotionally. We are better off if you can't hear that stuff. We need to have private conversations, and wanting to force everything into the big public square is, I know people are calling it an ideological decision. I really think just what happened here is that a block is a speed bump on engagement, and the numbers are terrible at Twitter. They're really, the company's not doing well. So I think they thought if we remove every block, that's just a little bit more engagement we can juice out of people.
So I'm wondering if you're someone who is like, okay, well, I've blocked a bunch of people and now they're going to be unblocked and they can see my tweets. What is the thread of harassment there? Because they can't DM you, they can't reply to you. Is it that they can screenshot your tweet, post it, and then other people will go after? I'm trying to think.
I think there's kind of two risks. I think one is like encouraging harassment on the platform, which is someone screenshots one of your tweets and says, you know, look at what this idiot said. They voted a way that I don't like, whatever.
Right.
And then posts it, gets that to go viral because that is something we know the platform loves and will send viral, especially if you use outrage words in it. And then a bunch of other people who will see that will then come and harass you. And that happens all the time.
Who you haven't blocked, yeah.
Yeah. I mean, all the time you will see like, you'll see a viral screenshot of someone's tweet. If you go to their account, like almost always the account is set to private, or they've got some post up that's like, I'm getting, you know, deluged and angry DMs, so I had to shut down my account. And I think the other risk,
like that woman who dared to tweet that she likes being in the garden and having coffee.
That's right. We got her ass. That'll fucking teach you, lady, to go into the garden. You know, it happens all the time. It's every day.
Yep.
Every day there's some new person who gets singled out because someone is lazy and looking for engagement. And I think the other danger is just stalkers. It's just being able to access someone's feed.
Yep.
It's just, it gives you more information about where they're going and what they're doing. And that's something that people should be able to control.
So I know we always make fun of tooting and skeeting and threading.
Oh, we're talking Blue Sky, baby.
All the other Twitter competitors. But apparently, Blue Sky has been getting a ton of users lately. It started in early September when Twitter was briefly blocked in Brazil, which we had talked about.
Right.
And now, after Elon announced that they're getting rid of the block feature, Blue Sky added 1 million users in 2 days and jumped to the #2 social networking app in the App Store. Do you think it's time for us to move to Blue Sky post-election? Obviously, we can't do anything right now.
So the numbers are right. That's under the Kamala Harris administration, we're all going to Blue Sky and we're all skeeting. So they,
I was too lazy to look this up. Is it skeeting in Blue Sky?
I don't know.
And tooting in Mastodon?
I don't know, and I'm so proud that I'm never going to find out.
Okay, me too.
So they got 1 million new subscribers, like basically overnight with this block thing, and they got 3 million new subscribers when Brazil banned Twitter for a few weeks. So it's huge numbers, and they're really touting it. That has brought them up to 11 million active users. Would you like to know, that makes them the #3 microblogging service. Would you like to know how many users are at the #2 microblogging service, Threads?
Oh.
175 million.
That's a lot
So
more.
it's 16 times, yes. So it's like, it's exciting, and it's like, look, momentum for Blue Sky. And everyone in my life who is on Blue Sky has been texting me constantly being like, now's the time to jump on board the Blue Sky, drink the Kool-Aid. But it's like, okay.
Because they're bored and lonely there.
But they're all just screaming at each other about New York Times headlines.
Oh, is that what they're doing?
Yes.
I don't want those. That's not what I want.
I had a friend of mine who was on it, called it a group therapy session for Gen Xers. But it's just to say that, how relevant does Threads feel to you right now, culturally?
Right. And we remember, I was like an early booster.
You're still on Threads, aren't you?
Yeah, well, I don't do anything there, but I had big hopes for Threads.
Yes.
Because I was like, oh, Instagram they figured out how to make that work. And so enough people know. Again, the only reason Twitter is useful is because journalists, politicians,
We're all
like
on it.
our
There's
world
critical mass.
is on it, and
Right.
that has influence in media coverage and how things are shaped, and so it's like useful. If you could get all of those people off of that platform and somewhere else, who would want to go on Twitter?
I know.
It's not good for anything else anymore.
I would love for it to happen. I would love for us to all move to, let's just all move to a big Google Doc where we just all paste comments at the top of the Google Doc. Like literally anything. We're all in a shared notes app. Anything would be better than Twitter, but it just, unless the service completely shuts down, there's just no way to move the critical mass. And the thing is that the microblogging economy is just small. It's just a small market. It's completely stagnant. Twitter is stagnant. Threads is stagnant. This is just not where new users are going. They're going to video-based services. And I think that's what's going to happen is this is just the fucking AOL of millennials. The AOL CD-ROM, you and I are going to be on it until the day we die. We're going to be the last two users on Twitter.
Just tweeting my goodbyes.
But
goodbye world.
Yeah,
and then
but then dunking on your goodbye.
Hombre is going to be like, fuck you, die. I'm like, yeah, I know I am.
That's it. That's going to be the last day on Twitter. Someone's going to post, and then the second to last user on Twitter is going to fucking dunk on his ass. And I'm going to retweet it. And that's it. And there's never going to be another Twitter because it's not where people want to go.
Thanks, Elon. Asshole.
I know. I wish it had stuck it around. It was a useful service.
I know. It was like, you don't know what you got till it's gone, because we were all complaining about it. Because there's plenty of complaints about Twitter before Elon bought it.
Oh, I was making them.
But now.
Once they killed links, that was it.
Yes.
I really think so.
All right. In other news, early last month, Google quietly rolled out a new AI tool that allows users to turn any piece of text into a podcast.
It's really something.
Now you've got our attention.
Yeah, that's right.
The podcast generator is part of Notebook LM, a new service from Google that aims to, quote, help users make sense of complex information by using AI to summarize notes, transcripts, and other research documents. Admittedly, I haven't yet had a chance to interact with Notebook LM or this new podcast generator. But Max, you sat down earlier this week to learn just how apocalyptic this new tool may actually be. So can you give us an intro into Notebook LM?
So the thing to understand about Notebook LM, it is meant to solve a problem with its AI chatbots, which is they are just way too open-ended for most people to use because you have to kind of approach it like you're a programmer where you have to know what are the functions, how do you pull things up. It's like kind of MS-DOS, you have to know the right commands and levers to pull. And some of it does useful things, some of it produces junk. So Notebook LM is a little interface. And you upload a bunch of docs and files to this interface, and then you get prompts where you can ask it questions, summarize the documents for me, give me the top 3 points, what does it say about this? And it'll kind of go through and it'll be like chatting about what's in the documents. And because it doesn't go outside of those files, you don't get the kind of hallucinating, you don't get the weird misinformation stuff. It doesn't fall in love with you or try to, steal your partner, hopefully. And one thing that they plugged into this a few weeks ago and they've been iterating on that's getting all the attention you mentioned is that it will produce not just a podcast about the files that you upload, but a 2-person jokey conversational explainer news podcast. No, boy, does that sound familiar. Yes. I was literally, when I first heard
Actually,
this,
everyone, this episode you're listening to is not really me and Max.
It's just the AI. I was working on a script for the show that I do with Aaron, which is like an explainer news, jokey news podcast. When I listened to this and I was like, oh, this is just what we do. Like it sounds like it. It's a man and a woman who are talking. It's like really, really close.
Well, you have I think you did something.
I did. So we pulled a little bait and switch on you. So as you know, that's right. As you know, I
oh no, I love a bait and switch. I love pranks.
So we talked before the episode. We talked about the fact that I downloaded my book and uploaded that to
Chaos
the feature.
On sale now wherever books are sold.
It is. Thank you very much. I appreciate that. It's probably not with most physical bookstores, a couple years old. But anyway, I uploaded the PDF and then it did in fact turn that into a 30-minute podcast where they discuss the lessons of the book. And I honestly was impressed. Everything was spot on. The analysis was sound. It sounded like a good podcast. But instead of playing that, we are going to play a clip from a different book.
Oh no. Is it Democracy or Else?
A little tome I like to call Democracy or Else.
Oh no. Oh boy.
All right, let's hear it.
Oh god.
They sort of break down some of the biggest systemic challenges. And they even have this like
Wow.
highly scientific rating system.
No, I love it when they get scientific.
Right. For like how difficult each thing is to fix.
Okay.
Like amending the Constitution, for example.
Okay.
They give a solid, good luck with that rating.
Yeah, I was going to say that seems pretty hard. Like you need a supermajority vote in both houses of Congress, and like 3/4 of the states have to ratify it.
Yeah.
Oh man,
It's the heavy lift.
just getting people to agree on pizza toppings is hard enough. Forget about that.
Isn't that wild?
Wow.
It's a podcast. It's just a podcast
Oh no.
in 4 minutes. Yes.
Oh
right.
no.
Yeah. You can't know what it felt like to upload 110,000 words in years of work and have it turn into a 24-minute podcast.
I've been working on this story for.
That's right. And
You
Google
just tweet-
fucking
and you
tweeted it
just
out.
tweeted it
That's
out.
right. Yes.
Oh.
I know. And it sounds.
I've
it's-
been thinking as we've been talking about like what would be useful to listen to, like
Mhm.
what do I want distilled? This is the challenge with AI is like it requires creativity in your own
Yes,
mind.
That's right. For
You go
the
like-
way to use
like
it.
what?
Yes.
How could I use this
Right,
possibly?
Right. Which is part of the service of Notebook AI is they have narrowed your choices down for what you can do and put some guardrails on it to try to encourage you towards useful functions. So, okay, there's what Google is marketing this as for, and then there's what I think it is actually for, which is separate. So what they're marketing for is basically a research tool.
Mhm.
So if you are, you're an anthropology professor and there's a bunch of big new research papers out and they're going to take forever to read. So instead you upload them to Notebook LM and you listen to a podcast summarizing the major points
Right.
while you're commuting. Or, you're a surgeon and you want to know the latest research on new surgery techniques and this is a way to get technical information to you. That's what they're marketing it as, is a research tool. And it does seem like it'd be very useful for that. I think the actual function is to supplant local news organizations
Yep.
and to take their money. And I think the idea is things like you live in Wisconsin and you really wish there was a local news podcast, but it's not quite a big enough market to sustain like, PodSafe Wisconsin. So instead you just plug in local news stories.
Milwaukee Journal Sentinel just gets like plugged into the
Exactly.
Yeah.
Right. And then it's, instead of going to the Milwaukee Journal Sentinel Journal,
Journal Sentinel.
thank you. Go into their website, plug in the articles, list the podcast. Now Google is getting that ad revenue instead of the actual reporters and newspaper that produce the stories, which is the same thing that Google has done with a ton of information, where now you read it through their platform, they collect 100% of the revenue. I think it's going to put a lot of news organizations out of business.
That's not good.
It's not good. No, which
Also,
sucks because
authors-
potentially it's a useful tool.
I mean, what about the people who write these books?
I mean, we're never putting them out in PDF again. I'll fucking tell you that much. If I do
Oh,
another book,
yeah.
it's going to be print and that's it.
You're gonna write it longhand.
Absolutely. That's right. I'm going to read it to you on the town square.
We're going back to the printing press.
I'm going to do the Mark Halperin Zoom $5,000 subscription where I read it out. No, I'm not going to do any Mark Halperin.
Well, that's a nightmare.
It is. And it's the thing that
It's
fucking
like everything else. I'm like useful.
Right.
Nightmare. Both.
that's the thing that I
That's it,
hate
yeah.
about it is that it's like the actual tool. Like I was listening to the podcast of my book and I was like, this is really useful because maybe you don't have time to read every book. There's so many books I would want to read in theory, but they're very academic. They're very dense.
Yeah.
I could just get 24 minutes of the insights, but the ways that the industry, the tech industry, the AI industry are structured, I know is just going to be extractive and it's just
Of
going
course.
to wipe out any sort of creatives who would actually be getting paid for this work instead.
Well, that's bleak. But I'm interested. I'm excited to load something in there. And
Oh, I
listen to
haven't-
a podcast.
I just remembered, I have another clip for you.
Ooh.
So we downloaded a transcript of a certain podcast
Oh,
you might
no.
know as PodSafe America and asked Notebook LM to summarize it. Evan, take it away.
You'd think his team would want him out there, firing on all cylinders.
Right. But the Pod Save America hosts actually made a point that I thought was really interesting. And they were saying, maybe this isn't so much about fatigue as it is just a reflection of how the media landscape has changed.
Well, that's a good point.
They think you made a good point. Isn't that nice?
Yeah, that one worried me a little less, actually. That's good. I don't know what the fuck they were talking
Yeah,
about, really.
no, I think they're actually, I think you and I are going to be fine
Yeah.
Because there's, the human connection that you could podcast and everything. I did ask Notebook LM after it sucked up this transcript if the episode was funny. Would you like to hear what it said? It said, this episode of Pod Save America features a lot of humorous commentary. The hosts use sarcasm and hyperbole throughout the episode. They sarcastically refer to Trump as a deranged clown and a random number generator. Overall, this episode is characterized by humor. I thought that was true.
The best compliment you can get is, overall, this episode is characterized by humor. That's what I'm looking for.
They're great appreciators of the show. They're friends of the pod.
Hopefully people who will listen to this episode will characterize it as humor as well.